In this video, we'll demonstrate how to change some common vPad properties both directly on the vPad or emulator and remotely through the UniPrint Management Console. To start, we'll re-enable the settings buttons on the emulator through the UniPrint Management Console. Then we'll change the vPad interface language, the default homepage, and the sound on the vPad before returning to the UniPrint Management Console to change them back again to their original settings. Since multi-factor authentication is popular, we'll go through some properties that are related to authentication tokens, such as smart cards and key fobs. And finally, we'll quickly go through the properties that need to be set to limit which printers a user has access to on the vPad device. You can see this in action on Chris's Techie Tip video on restricting printer access on the vPad. This is where we left off from our last tutorial, so let's return to the bridge to enable the settings button on the emulator. Right-click the vPad, and then select Properties. Click the Settings tab. These are all the settings available for the vPad. Let's re-enable the Settings button on the vPad. Change Show Settings on vPad Devices to Yes. And then click OK. Let's return to the vPad. Now click Settings. If English is not your preferred language, you may want to change the interface language first. Then you can make whatever changes to the vPad in the language in which you are most comfortable. Click Language. Let's select French or Français. And then click Apply. Click Yes to accept these changes. Some languages such as French use extended Latin characters and accents. To access these characters, click or tap and hold a letter to access them. Let's do this with the letter E. This allows the user to enter an E with an accent grave, accent aigu, circumflex or tréma, diaeresis, or umlaut if one appears in their username. Let's close this and return to the UniPrint Management Console. Most settings can be done remotely through the UniPrint Management Console, allowing administrators to centrally manage all of the vPad devices. And in a typical environment, you would have more than one vPad to manage. Let's change the language on the vPad back to English. Click to select the vPad. And then click Properties. Click the Settings tab. Click to select Language. Click the drop-down arrow beside Language. And then select English. Click OK for the changes to take effect on the vPad. Let's go back to the vPad to see the changes. Another setting that you may want to change right away is the default homepage. The default homepage you see here is New Search. To change the default homepage, click Settings. Click Advanced. And then select Recent User List. Instead of being presented with the keypad to enter and therefore search for their username, users will be presented with a list of users that have recently searched for their names. Click Apply. Users would just have to tap or click on their username to be presented with a list of their print jobs. It's just a little less clicking on their part. You can even limit the number of users that the vPad will list. Click Settings. Click Advanced. Click the User List tab. Click or tap plus or minus to increase or decrease the maximum number of usernames listed. And then click Apply. If your vPad is located close to where people are working, you may want to lower the volume or turn the sound off completely on the vPad so as not to disturb them. Click Sound. To turn the sound off, clear Audible Selection. And then click Apply. Let's go back to the UniPrint Management Console, where we'll remotely change these settings back. Go to the bridge. The vPad is already selected, so click Properties. Click the Settings tab. The homepage setting is here. Change it back to New Search. To adjust the maximum number of usernames listed, you would change the recently searched list maximum setting. Scroll down for sound. Turn sounds back to on. Some settings only apply to an actual vPad device and do not apply to the emulator, such as screen and screensaver related properties. Since the emulator is installed on a Windows machine, use Windows itself to make adjustments to the screen. Another setting that doesn't apply to the emulator is server connection, static IP property. A static IP address can only be assigned on an actual vPad device. And settings for sound and volume can also be managed through Windows. The spanning tree protocol also only applies to vPad devices. This setting is used to prevent broadcast radiation from occurring, resulting from a bridge loop created by connecting both of the vPad ports to your network. We recommend that one port be connected to your network and the other port be connected to a network printer. In fact, even the screen on the emulator for this setting is disabled. Let's go back to the vPad/emulator. Click Settings. Click Advanced. Click the Network tab. As you can see, on the emulator the screen is disabled, but on the actual vPad device the screen looks like this. And this is where you would enable the spanning tree protocol and set a static IP address for the vPad device. Click Cancel. To change settings such as screen brightness, click Screen. Again, these settings only apply to the actual vPad device and not the emulator. Click the Screensaver tab. Again, to manage screen properties for the emulator, go through Windows Control Panel and then Appearance and Personalization. Click Cancel. Let's take a look at some properties that pertain to authentication tokens. These properties can only be accessed through the UniPrint Management Console. Let's go to the bridge. SecurePrint allows for multi-factor authentication, and vPads can be purchased with magnetic stripe readers and readers for most versions of RFID and HID. This means you don't have to purchase a new authentication system, so you can use the already existing authentication tokens in your organization. In the previous video, we demonstrated how to import a list of users and their token IDs. Alternatively, you can always have your users self-register themselves at the vPad devices. Users only have to do this once for their token to be associated with their username. To allow this, set Allow User Self-Registration to Yes. By default, the vPad device is responsive to touch. However, if you want the vPad to only respond after a token is swiped or tapped, set device mode to locked down. This adds an extra layer of security. We'll leave it as normal. If you want all active print jobs to print with one card swipe, set Print All Jobs on Card Swipe to Yes. This eliminates one extra mouse click or tap, since the user doesn't need to select a print job to print. These settings pertain to a particular vPad device, and there are more authentication token settings within the default settings. Click OK to save these settings. Click Default Settings. Another way to reduce the amount of clicks or taps for the user is to set Allow Password Bypass at the device to Yes. This way the user does not need to enter their password in order to retrieve their print jobs. Beside user card limit, you can also set the number of authentication tokens that can be associated with a user ID. Now let's look at some more advanced tasks. You can have many printers associated with a vPad, but if you want to prevent a user from being able to select or print to a particular printer, you'll have to use the UniPrint Print Guard service. For a more detailed video on this, see Chris Hathaway's techie tip on restricting printer access on the vPad, but we'll show you what needs to be set. Click Start. Click Administrative Tools. Click Services. Locate the UniPrint Print Guard service and enable it. And then go back to the default settings for the vPad. And then set Use Integrated Windows Printer Security to Yes. Deny the user printer access by modifying the access control list for gateway printers, which are located on the bridge. The user will no longer see denied printers on the vPad and will therefore not be able to select those printers through the vPad device. Click Cancel. Thank you for watching this video. Check out our next video on releasing your print shop through the vPad. This video is intended for end users, so we won't be switching back and forth between servers, and it'll give you, the network administrator, a quick overview of what your users will see when printing with the SecurePrint solution. We'll then continue with our final configuration video on configuring archiving and statistics monitoring. If you plan to deploy UniPrint in a server-client environment, then you may want to also check out our videos on installing and configuring UniPrint client.